What's up peeps, how's it going? Dave here, and on today's episode we're going to be looking at a few of the sentry positions and strategies I like to use on Hoodoo. So in the background here, to start us off, we're looking at the first map, and I wanted to show you one or two places I like to set up here. First off is in this little kind of balcony area here. Now it's a little bit further back than the front line, but I think it's kind of worth it because it can be a really decent hold if you can set up here in time. So what I do is I get that sentry you can see here facing down this slope here, so that if anyone pokes their head around the corner, like it's immediately, you can lock on really quickly and fire at them. I get the dispenser just in that corner there, and then behind me you can see the telly, which I try to get up nice and early. It's super important, like, to get that telly up early and just to get it up to level 3, so that you're not kind of left on your own out at the front lines here. I kind of fast forwarded time a little bit here, and now we're seeing, you know, the enemy is starting to apply some pressure, which kind of demonstrates well this position can hold up. I think we start getting attacked from both sides a bit here. I'm just sort of kind of tortoise shelling in this corner here, and as you can see, you can just go back to the dispenser and then back to the sentry gun quite happily. So most of your threats are going to be coming up the stairs, and then obviously when they start to push the cart further round, as they are now, you'll get some threats towards the right. But as long as you're on top of your sentry, you can usually fend off most of these. I think at this point, I think an Uber comes along, and then I have to make a bail. So let's take a look and see what happens. So yeah, here I have to bail out. An Uber comes, and it's really important to know when to sort of give up that position anyway, and leave your sentry behind, especially when you're using the what's it called, Frontier Justice. So what I've done here is I've escaped quickly, and I've gone to this second position I wanted to show you guys, which is on this top left balcony here. Now, this probably isn't the most practical place to set up. One, because there's no metal actually out here, and I'm having to try and hold that fence open as I was then, but unfortunately I'm now locked in. And two, I don't know, it's a bit more of a novelty position. I really enjoy, like, the challenge of setting up here, and kind of it's a bit kind of unusual, and the people who come up the stairs, you're going to kind of have to shoot them with your shotgun as well, and then, you know, if anyone comes from across the way there on the other balcony, you have to use your Wrangler. So it's kind of you have to stay really active, but it's just a lot of fun. I like to try different places for the actual sentry gun. Here I've got it facing the door, and then we get kind of a bit of a push here from a medic and a couple of other enemies, but we managed to just about fend them off. So I set up another sentry gun. In this case I decided to leave it in this corner as a way just so hopefully no one will notice it. As you'll see in a sec, we get another attack, and they're completely oblivious that it's even there. So yeah, these two have just Ubered in. The medic's like, oh crap, why isn't my demo turning around? And I managed to just, you know, pick them off. We're actually doing quite well at this stage in this map. So what I end up doing is something a bit silly. This is another position I kind of quickly wanted to show you guys. You occasionally see the odd NG setting up on top of this kind of porch thing. This is me trying to figure out if you can put a telly up. Doesn't look like you can. Again, another one which is not very practical for setting up, you know, quickly, but it can actually be really good. Like, the sentry covers both the two balconies on either side, and obviously the cart as it goes under, so it can, if you can keep a sentry up here, it can be an awesome spot. So for the second map, there's a couple of spots I wanted to show you. The second one I'm really excited to kind of share. This first one is more of a throwaway position. Like, I don't really expect this one to last too long, but I do find that it tends to take, you know, 2 or 3 enemies down before going down itself. It's just kind of, if we wait for this guy to go around this corner, just upgrading the telly obviously. There's nice 2 bits of metal around here, which is handy. But yeah, it's just behind this rock here, so there's no direct line of sight coming from where, you know, where they're spawning. So you find that when people come down that alleyway there, they can actually get shot through the windows by the sentry. And obviously if they go the other way around the rocks, then it can take them out fairly easily. Again, I'm cutting my losses here, and I'm just going to make a retreat because I think they're pushing pretty strongly. What I did there was just threw up a quick sentry up in a spot I kind of used to build out, which is kind of a good spot. But the main reason I did that is kind of more to figure out, you know, whereabouts are the enemies and have they got to that position yet. So how long have I got to set up back here? Here I cut a little bit out and zoomed us along a bit, but basically I set up my dispenser level 3. So yeah, this last position is on this balcony here, which I've seen quite a few NGs set up here before, but I wanted to be kind of really specific about how I think, you know, you can make a really good setup by using this balcony. So what I do is put a sentry in this corner here behind this kind of like fencing. So it's facing out towards the cart, but it can also see back towards that doorway behind us. I pop up a teleporter there if I've got the additional metal. It's not super important, but it can be useful for getting back to your base very quickly. Dispenser's in that other corner behind the fencing, so that's fairly safe there. And then at this point, when I'm all set up, I tend to get in this routine of kind of going backwards and forward to this corner I'm in now, and then back over to where the sentry is, constantly checking out the path, the gateway to the left, and then where the cart is. So just so that if anyone is about to come, if there's a push about to happen, I can sort of be a bit of a distraction and shoot them from a different angle to my sentry, like I am here, so that one, they can't really focus down on my sentry, and two, they're getting like that little bit extra damage, so it can be really difficult to take both me out and the sentry. Again, always checking that gateway behind me, because you do find you get a fair few players trying to sneak in that way, and then just keeping an eye out on the cart as well, just to keep that pressure up. The moment anyone's near the cart, they've sussed there's a sentry up here, just give them a few shots with the shotgun, and it seems to be enough to make them kind of retreat a bit. The other thing to mention is, if they do come out of that gateway and you're on the right hand side of them shooting at them, it makes them, like I said earlier, it's a kind of a distraction, so they're going to have to turn to you to shoot you, and often it's almost like luring them into a trap. Often they don't even realise, they don't stop to think that there's probably a sentry somewhere as well, so you end up very easily taking them out just by luring them out into the open, away from the direction of the sentry. So that can be like a really useful tactic, which I kind of use quite a lot. So yeah, I take a couple of shots at that demo, and then I always try and stick to going to the left, so that if he does come out and try and spam me with those pipes, even if he does kill me, he's got the sentry behind him, and that's probably going to take him out. If I went towards the sentry, it means one, he'll know it's there, and two, his spamming will just damage me and my buildings as well. So it's just sort of spreading out me and my base. I think this is where things go a little bit pear-shaped. Often you can just about keep it upright, but I think, I don't know what happened there. I died. Looked like it was perhaps a crit rocket. So that last position was definitely one of my favourite spots to be setting up on, like pretty much across all the maps I play on. It's just the case where, when you find a position on your own and it's really successful, it just makes it that bit more enjoyable to use. Now over to the last map, and we're taking a look first at this spot on the bridge. Very, classic spot to use. You see a lot of NGs building up here, but I've not found a better spot, to be honest. It can be really successful. I just get my telly down here in this corner, and the dispenser here as well, just out of the way of any damage. And it's just a matter of, I guess it depends, how good the enemy team is. Sometimes you can rack up, 10 plus kills with your sentry here, but in this case, I actually get destroyed immediately by an Uber. So yeah, I didn't do too great. So this next position I wanted to show you is a lot more unusual, and I wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about it. It's at this very far end of the map where there's this U-turn, and I find that, well, I've never seen anyone else build up here, and I find that this end of the map gets kind of neglected. You know, the enemy push around this corner super quickly and end up just taking the shortcut through the buildings, and all the battle usually ends up at the other end of the map. So to have a sentry nest up here is kind of very surprising for the enemy, and it's also a really useful spot to be like teleporting your team members in and having them attack the enemy from a different angle. So what I tend to do is put the sentry just about down there on my left so it can see the direction from which the cart is coming, and also along down the right of the building as well. I go back and forward collecting the metal, which is pretty good supply around here. I think actually in a sec here I do get overwhelmed and the sentry goes down, but I managed to get it up again and kind of hold my ground this time for a lot longer. So yeah, the dispenser and teleporter go up against that wall, kind of tucked away, and as you can see the sentry gun is now shooting people from behind. It's kind of awesome that they've actually pushed the cart around and I've still set it up here, because it means they're kind of expecting it even less than they would normally. As you can see, I'm just doing the tactic I've discussed in the past, where I'm constantly running around and looking around this corner and making sure that any enemies knocking about are super uncomfortable, and just dealing out a little bit of damage where I can with my shotgun. So here the pressure's starting to build up a bit. They're kind of onto the fact that I've got a sentry nest up here. But as long as I'm constantly moving around, jumping around the corner, causing some damage, I can hold my own for quite a while. There I got a rocket right in the face, which is nice. But luckily my old dispenser saved me. My playstyle, I don't tend to like enjoy kind of just tortoise shelling in most scenarios. I guess it's just more fun mainly just to be jumping around and causing damage with the shotgun as well, but it's also, I find it actually it's more useful, and it gives the enemy a harder challenge to try and take down your nest, whereas if you're just behind your sentry, they've got all the time in the world to poke around the corner and shoot it bit by bit. So yeah, I think this is where I do actually end up going down. So yeah, on the very last point, there's a couple of good spots. We're all familiar with, like the shelf on the top right, in the little house on the left, and under the stairs. But again, in a lot of cases, I do tend to just run around like a loony, trying to cause as much damage as I can with my mini sentry, which is again a lot of fun. And sometimes if you haven't got a chance to set up your big sentry, it's kind of more useful. So yeah, thanks for watching everyone, really appreciate your time. Thanks for all your comments and likes, and for your suggestions as well. I'll be definitely taking some of those on board for the next videos. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.